Hey guys, welcome back. As always, my name is Laser, and today we're going to be talking about the Diablo 4 Barbarian. The open beta should be just a couple of hours away, which means you want to get a head start on your favorite class. When it comes to the Barbarian, there have been two relevant builds in the first weekend of the beta. That was a Bleed Barbarian mixed in together with Thorns, which is what we're going to be talking about today, and a Whirlwind Barbarian, which I already discussed. Don't worry about it, I'll link it to you just a tad later. But for now, let's talk Thorns Barbarian. This was the most efficient build in terms of power, and the way you build it is pretty straightforward. We're going to keep everything as simple as possible, so let's jump into the talents. Basic, this is going to be essentially your builder. We're going to go with Flay. If you haven't used this skill before, it's new for Diablo 4, and of course you gotta go with Enhanced Flay. Many of these skills you see, they have a natural progression that just makes the skill better. And finally, the only real choice you have, it's either Battle Flay or Combat Flay. Yes, battle or combat flay. That's not important. What is important, what the skill actually does. For the most part, this puts a big damage over time on the target. It doesn't do a whole lot of contact damage per se, but you are going to be applying a whole lot of bleed to your target. The enhanced simply gives you a chance to apply vulnerable to the target, and you want vulnerable on your targets, especially the heavy duty ones. Now finally, combat flay. When flay deals direct damage to an enemy, you gain 3% damage reduction and thorns for 3 seconds. This stacks up 4 times. Like I said, this is a bleed Thorns build. This is the way you want to go. Just 1 point in Flay will do it. Next, we're going to move on to the core skills, and here you have a little bit of leeway. We're going to go with Rend. This is a frontal cleave, and you essentially apply a whole lot of bleed to your targets. It's quite potent, but it is damage over time, so you don't get that satisfying insta-impact feeling. Enhanced Rend, like I said before, dealing direct damage with Rend extends the duration of vulnerable on enemies by 2 seconds. You see the trend here. We're going to be getting vulnerable from Enhanced Flay, and we can prolong it with Enhanced Rend. Now the final one is optional, Furious Rend. I never found I had any sorts of issue in terms of fury generation, because here's the thing, you don't really need a whole lot of fury for this build. So this one is optional. What you can do is put 1 additional point in Rend. Instead of 3, you go to 4 and you take out the Furious Rend if you feel you don't need that extra generation, like I didn't feel. Next up, we're going to be going to defensive. This is the most important 3 when it comes to the Barbarian. And don't get me wrong, it's not about actual damage mitigation per se, this is about dealing more damage. Perhaps one of the more broken skills that the Barbarian has is going to be Challenging Shout. Essentially, this is the only skill you realistically need to survive through everything that the beta can throw at you, including the world boss. Check this one out. Taunt nearby enemies and gain 40% damage reduction for 8 seconds. This is level 1. The problem with this one, you get it for 8 seconds, but the cooldown is 25. I still recommend this as being your only defensive talent. Next up, we're going to be going with Enhanced Challenging Shout. While Challenging Shout is active, gain 20% bonus maximum life, and we're going to be working into that maximum life, and you'll see why in a second. While Challenging Shout is active, gain Thorns equal to 50% of your maximum life, and you get why we went this way. But we're not going to be stopping here. We're gonna go for Imposing Presence as well, gain 15% additional maximum life. The same idea. Then we're gonna enhance that Thorn setup. Outburst is gonna give you a ton of Thorns, especially if you went into maximum life like we already talked about. And finally, Tough as Nails at this point is a given. Increases your Thorns by 60%. When enemies hit you, they take additional damage of your Thorns as bleed damage over 5 seconds. If you want to be the guy that just roams around, gets hit, and everything gets melted besides you, then this is definitely the way to go. When it comes to Brawling, I wanted to skip this one entirely, but Warcry does actually make quite the significant difference. Bellowing a Mighty Warcry increases your damage dealt by 15% for 8 seconds and nearby allies for 4 seconds. So even if you're not in a party and you will meet players while roaming around, Warcry will help them as well. Enhanced Warcry as before. Warcry grants you Berserking for 4 seconds. Now, there's a few methods to get Berserking, and you want to have it as much as possible, but tying it into Warcry is the guaranteed way to get it. It's only for 4 seconds, but these durations can be increased through items. And obviously, we're gonna go for Mighty Warcry as a topper. This one grants you 28% base life as Fortify. And if you're unfamiliar with, hey man, what is Fortify, or what is Berserking for that matter? Don't worry about it, the game actually does a good job at explaining these effects. We're gonna skip this tree entirely. Weapon mastery for this build is entirely unnecessary, and we're gonna go straight for ultimates, and it's gonna be Call of the Ancients. But here's the thing, the Ancients by themselves don't really do a whole lot, just like in Diablo 3. But at least in Diablo 3 you have a legendary affix that will allow them to stay with you indefinitely. Here, they show up, they yell, they make big rackets, aggro everything, and then they go. Which is not really all that fantastic, but they are useful in a boss fight scenario. Even though bosses are going to be deleted really quickly anyway, you can call down the Ancients to help. This is why we're speccing Call of the Ancients. We want Prime Call of the Ancients, but for this one, you're going to need one additional skill point. While Call of the Ancients is active, gain 10% bonus attack speed and 10% increased damage. So essentially, we're kind of making it into a cooldown of our own. And that's pretty much it when it comes to the talent setup. Now, this style of gameplay is a bit more passive, is a bit more, hey, I'll stand still, you'll hit me and everything will die. That doesn't mean you can't come at them and hit your targets, and you're gonna be annihilating even bosses pretty easily and quickly. But if you want something, let's say, a bit more active, then you should try the Whirlwind Barbarian. Granted, currently, because of the levels we have access to and because we don't have all the effects yet, it can get to these crazy high numbers, but it's still a whole lot of fun. Link in the cards right now for a full and detailed guide on that. Now, you might be wondering, hold on there, dude, don't I need specific legendary affixes to actually make this build work? Because at the end of the day, that is how Diablo works. You might find a fantastic legendary item and your entire build will start to shape around it. And you know what? If you get such an item, fantastic, go for it and enjoy the game. But the beauty about Thorns Bleed build, better said, is that it's not reliant on any legendary affix. That said though, there are a couple of affixes that will make it go through the roof, and the most important one for ease of use is gonna be Thorns damage dealt has a chance to deal damage to all enemies around you. And if you manage to get that affix, save it, my friends, and make sure you imprint it on the right weapon. And speaking about weapons, let's talk a little bit about gems. It's pretty simple. Get as much Thorns as you can and damage over time. So damage over time on weapons, Thorns on everything else, and you should be good to go. And I do believe, my friends, that is pretty much it. As always, my name has been Lazer. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe only if you enjoy the content. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Hey, enjoy the beta. See you there. Bye!